me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Go out of your way to be curious and meet as you possibly can. Understand and ask questions like, what was their purpose in life? How did they remain persistent through all the obstacles that they had? And how do they show and demonstrate their passion daily? I think if you can do that, you'll gain your own internal inspiration from that, and that'll help you along the journey. If nothing else, changes your life perspective to meet somebody and just someone new.
Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show Leadership Series. Today we're joined by John Saintignon, who has led a remarkable journey. From NCAA scoring leader to professional basketball coach across 9 countries to author of Shooting for the Impossible. John's story isn't just about sports. It's about vision, persistence, and the courage to chase what seems out of reach. He shares powerful lessons from his time with legendary coach John Wooden, his experiences coaching around the world, and how one act of curiosity led him to discover his roots and redefine what success truly means. If you've ever wondered how curiosity, humility, and resilience shape true leadership, this episode will remind you why we lead and who we lead for. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Sorry I missed out on yesterday. I threw my back out for the first time in my life. I feel sorry for all those other people who have done that. I'm now part of the club. But I have a special guest with me today, John Saintignon. And we met through Aaron Locks with the Youth Sports Mastery show. He was a guest on there, and I was like, wow, he has such a great message. I'd love to have him on our leadership series to share more about what he's done. He's written a book, but how are you doing today, John?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Craig, for inviting me. And the same, I'll give credit to Aaron for also bringing us together. That was a long-standing relationship, as you're well aware, with him. And, that's what friends do. They help one another. Yeah,
fantastic. All right, well, before we get started, we're going to play, as usual, a little promo. One of our sponsors is Palco. They make LED lights for baseball fields, soccer fields that are, they basically ship you these 100,000 hour bulletproof, pretty much lights, not exactly bulletproof, but close enough, to your maintenance departments, so that if you have the manpower and the lifts and you just want to swap out your fixtures for something that's going to last forever, please give Palco a shot. And then also we're going to play a promo on how you can become a strategic partner of the Daily Parks and Rec Show and help us co-create content and elevate your brand and services while at the same time building a media company for the Parks and Rec community. So we'll play these 2 promos and then we'll come right back and start our conversation with John.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation by highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.
All right, so John, why don't we just start off by introducing yourself to the audience? This is a broader audience, more of Parks and Rec professionals, primarily directors that pay attention to and tune into our leadership series. But maybe tell people a little bit about your background in sports and just coming into the world of sports, and we can take there and then go into your book that you wrote.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, the honor to be amongst your group, and able to help wherever I can. I got involved in the game of basketball at an early age, and it was able to provide me a pathway to getting an education. So after high school, I ended up going to the University of California, and I ended up playing basketball there and keep on progressing through the sport. Eventually, I led the United States scoring, and as an NCAA player, but this is in the 1985 season. There is no social media, none of that exists, and ESPN is in its infancy, and so the notoriety that went on back then just straight up magazine publications. But nevertheless, that's how the rest of the world saw it. Having that accolade, it allowed me to play in the professional basketball, what was called the Los Angeles Summer Pro League. And if there's any advocates of sports here, it's the equivalent of the NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. And it was the same situation. You went there, you trained, you were a free agent, you tried out with a team, and lo and behold, a coach from overseas in Spain saw me, offered me a contract, and that's how I began my professional basketball career. I played for a number of years, 4, almost 5, and then I would have a career path change. It wasn't as luxurious as it is now overseas. It was very rigid. We played 4 nights a week. We traveled in between those days. It was brutal. And surfaces, Gatorade, all that's not tangibly around. Trainers, all this stuff.
What year was this? This was in the 80s, you said? Or 90s?
Yeah. This is 80s overseas was totally a different experience. The came to the bench, you had water or Coke, as in a soda. That was your, and so it's just the strategy. It's just the way it was back then. And same thing if you got hurt, you tried to take care of it immediately, but it's just the you were afterwards you'd go to a hospital or a clinic and get seen, but it was rough and tumble to say the least, and so but after that, those grueling 4 games a week seasons for 6 months, it takes a toll on you. And I really realized, like, maybe my body is going to take a beating for one. My mind was certainly doing that. Nothing else, and came back and get into the world of coaching. And I'm nervous about it, to be honest, because I had befriended, while I was a collegiate athlete, the honor of being with Coach John Wooden. And the wisdom that he would impart on me during the times that I would see him at his house or just even in a car ride with him was that he was always curious if my knowledge can transfer, so that I could tell somebody else how to do something. I know I could put the ball in the basket. I know what I could do, but could I impart that wisdom on someone else and not get frustrated by it and not lose the sense of direction as to what a coach is? It was intriguing. And I first job a high school basketball coach wasn't strategic. I didn't have that knowledge base necessarily of the X's and O's, as they would say. Mm-hmm. I was really trying to figure out who the person was, where they started from. Could I help them? All the wisdom I possibly could, but what's going to give them one little tangible difference and see it happening. And luckily I did. Luckily it counted, and I started to see that there was joy and passion in imparting some wisdom onto somebody younger and helping them elevate. Mm-hmm. So I high school number of years, very successful at it. It was eventually, we had some really great teams here in the state of California. I moved to the state of Arizona, did the exact same thing, played a national schedule, played against everybody you can imagine, went to go look for LeBron James, play him in high school. And then I get a call to join the Pac-10. At the time, the Pac-10 is just thriving. It's one of the marquee leagues in all of college sports, and it was just a dream of mine. And so I go to Oregon State University and get my first taste of what high major Division I institution is like. Stayed there for a few years.
How long were you under John Wooden? And for those not familiar with him, maybe you can give a brief little commercial as to the caliber of coach that he was, even who he was, for those not familiar with sports.
Yeah, so Wooden is synonymous with what's called the greatest coach of all time. He was a basketball coach who earned his fame at UCLA during the 60s and 70s era, and won 10 national championships while at UCLA. Unheard of in today's modern world of basketball. That's unheard of to get that many. And a number of those teams were undefeated. And he, in the eyes of men in the world of industry, look up to him because of this of his pyramid of success, of how to formulate what he envisioned were success parameters. But as a basketball player, we viewed him as God. I get the invitation to be at his basketball because I'm a college athlete. It's the way to earn a little bit of money during the summer, but more importantly, it was a connection against the best college athletes on a daily basis. Yes, I'm going to contribute during the day out those student athletes that came to learn. Boy, man, when the time came at lunchtime or hours to compete, that's what I was there for. I really wanted to compete against them. I get fortunate enough to have a conversation with him. And then I freeze because I'm not 100% sure that he's talking to me and or I don't know him. You know, I was shooting, you know, and making baskets and something, and he walked by and he goes, "Boy, it would really be something if you could learn how to." And now I froze because I'm not sure if that's criticism, you know, and I don't know. And it's just his sarcastic way of being humorous. And so I started to understand that. I'm like, you know, now that's how the relationship began. And I was like, oh, coach, you know, anything you say, you know, get, you know, literal, you know, and then, but it was really not basketball that we really ever talked about. We taught, he was anybody who ever had contact with will always tell you that he recited Shakespeare poems to you by heart. He spoke to you in parables. There's when you had a decision to make, as I had many times, it was always, you know, there's no softer pillow than a clear conscience, you know. It on at you so that you would absorb what he was trying to say without, you know, gaining his wisdom. And so, you know, he ended up being such an integral part that, you know, he was invited to my wedding, and the graciousness of who he was, he understood that he could probably not attend, as that would take away from people there to celebrate the wedding, to then want his autograph and all the other things that would happen. But what he decided to write personal letters to all of my groomsmen. He figured that would be a wonderful idea. Sure was. Wow. You know, to this day, those guys have that. They memorized, they, you know, have it on their walls. And it was, that's the gesture that he had. What I really gained from him was the value of time. He was humble. He lived in a very small condominium in Encino, California, with his wife. And, you know, he was able to separate all the accolades and the noise of college Division I basketball at the time. And when he came home, he was not a part of UCLA anymore. That I never that's really hard. You know, as I was at Oregon State, the phone's ringing all the time, recruiting, you name it. I didn't know how he was able to separate that when he walked in the door. But each time that I was with him, I was the most important thing in his, because I'm in his house, I'm sitting across from him, phones are ringing. He has answering machines and they're clicking on and you can hear the message, and it's important people. It's not only within the world of athletics, the world of business, even the White House called and he never stopped to go get that phone. I asked him, I said, Coach, don't you want to go get that? I mean, look who's calling you. I will get to them when I get to them. You are my guest. And at that time, I'm like, who am I? I'm just a high school basketball coach. But in his eyes, I was a teacher. And that was really, for him, that was the highlight of anybody's career, you know, to be a teacher of something.
Now, how did he teach differently someone to be an athlete versus how would he teach someone to be a coach? Because those are obviously two different skill sets. Like you said, shooting a ball is one skill set, having knowledge of the game. But then now you shift to the position of now you're teaching and coaching. What are the different types of lessons, you know, coaching an athlete versus coaching a coach?
For me, I always kind of look from the finish line. If I'm with a new coach or that's under my supervision, I always want them to kind of get to describe what's the finish line look for you. We can get back from that, and we'll take the steps necessary to achieve that finish line. It's very hard to come up with it because many and sometimes coaches only think day to day, the issues that are in front of them every day. The hurdles, they pop up. They're obstacles, however you want to describe it. Everything happens to everyone during the day. But in this leader capacity, to think about what's the finish line? What do I want this to look like? And then I'll work my way back from that. This is what I want it to look to be. I think that was valuable lessons that I got from him during those early days, was to, what is it that you want to achieve? And let's work our way back from there, and you'll take the steps necessary, and you won't get distracted with all the things that happen all day.
Yeah, and I think that's a valuable lesson for anyone listening, whether you're leading a community through your Parks and Rec department, whether you're coaching a little team of fifth graders, or whether you're an athlete on the court. Begin with the end in mind is just great wisdom. That way you don't get all wrapped up in the day-to-day without really making progress towards your end goal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just being, as many people say, blessed journey, people I meet. But to be honest, Craig, with all your especially topic of leadership, I'm curious. I want to meet people in all walks of life. And so when I got the position, within Oregon State University, I had a different platform, and I reached out to everybody who I thought were top CEOs in the country. And I went after them, not targeting, but curious. And lo and behold, I mean, I met a whole bunch of them. They didn't have to be an alumni of our institution. I was just curious I asked them 3 questions. What's your purpose? How do you get it? How do you discover this? And how do you remain persistent at something? And what does your passion look like? And the CEO of Nike opened his door. We sit down in front of him and discuss. The CEO of Burger King International met me in Atlanta during the 4 to talk. I invited everybody as you should, to the institution, come watch a game, etc. But that wasn't the case. Even the CEO of IBM was just curious. At first, they're not sure why you're asking, but then they want to share their wisdom and knowledge with you on that. And that's what I wanted to find out. Like, gosh, how did you guys become on top of the world and in these various industries? And lo and behold, if they're not so curious as to what they're doing, I'd say probably 90% of the time they're more interested in what I was doing than what they were. And it's ironic, right? Because I think what they're doing is incredible. They think, what you do is incredible. And I think that's the lesson to be learned here. I remember once I met a Navy SEAL once while I was overseas, and this gentleman said, you are more of an ambassador than our actual ambassador is, because you're on the ground, you're teaching, you're instructing, they're learning that you care. An ambassador comes and just, gives out, things that they're just going to say and do, but they don't really truly get on with the people. You can change his heart and mind this way. And it makes you value the industry that you're in, even though as one of your listeners will know, this isn't a wealth-based industry. You're not going to get, incredible wealth out of it. But what you do receive out of it, you literally can change someone's life. Going back to Coach Wooden telling me, how will you know if you're successful? And he was to impart on me the wisdom at that particular time between being transactional and being transformational. Which did I want to be? Did you want to be the coach that chased the national championships? Do you want to be recognized as the one that won the titles and talk only about those titles? Or do you want to be the one that transformed athletes that were under your supervision? You'll never know what they're like until 10 years, 20 years later, when they're doctors, lawyers, and proud fathers, and they reach back out to you. You know, darn if that hasn't happened in my life. Almost every day I get some sort of feedback from some player that played for me along my journey that will have something to say about the time that they were going through. And that's when we're successful. You know, you transform maybe someone's way of maybe you gave them care during a rough moment in life, or maybe you pushed them along when they needed that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's just so valuable, because it reminds a lot of the lessons that you're talking about reminds me of an old book I read. It was called, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I remember one of those chapters in the book was like, "There is a master inside of every person you meet, and they have a high level of mastery around something they're passionate about, which means every person you meet is a teacher to you, is a mentor to you."
That's
And,
why I thrive on seeking out a new person to talk to anywhere that I'm in the world, because get in the story, you're like fascinated, like what they have, or what their journey, what they're passionate about. It's remarkable.
yeah. Yeah, and I know just in the creation of what we're trying to build, through our media company, it's, what is the end in mind? And, for us, it's we feel like the story of Parks and Recreation across America has just, for the most part, remained untold. And, they are busy for 100 years transforming the lives of young athletes and running some of the most beautiful park spaces across the nation, and special events, and running little leagues, and they just do it quietly, and, no one's really grabbed the entire industry and said, "Let's throw this up in neon lights and tell the world what you're doing, because we wanna bring more people to the industry where you're transforming communities and lives, and not it be something you discover later in life, or just for the most part goes unmentioned." And, that's kind of what us and our as digital artists are trying to do, is to lift this industry up, because they do a lot of the work that you're saying every day in every little town in America. There's a team of Parks and Rec professionals working hard to change and transform their communities into, better communities, stronger communities.
It it transformed my life. You don't realize it until afterwards, and how much the part that I was a part of when I was a youth, just to see a woman that really ran that with under a shoestring budget, but
Mhm.
to allow a safe place and continually do as many upgrades and ways to continually utilize the space, and within the world of basketball, was to have a place to play, a place where it was safe and welcome, where an upgrade would happen somewhere, and I don't know how that upgrade happened, but recently I went back, and the upgrade is just tremendous. I,
Mhm.
I don't even know how it's an outdoor space, but now it's covered. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, so I played in the sun. Now that's covered. Now it was also to capture the rain, and put it in giant, and when it monsoons came, it's a great way to get the water and utilize it for the grass, other areas. The
Mm.
the lighting that took place, the detail that this gentleman just kept having, because that was the vision of the finish line for him.
Mm.
Uh, that may have taken him 40 years, probably.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I this morning, I was, helping a friend with, redo some tennis courts that he's doing for a community. He's trying to get it permitted, and I just have some old licenses that I've never let expire. And, next door to me was a neighborhood. It was kinda like for a little high school, but it was a turfed field. It looked like a college field. It had beautiful lighting on it, had a track around it, and like you said, somebody over in Donaldsonville, Louisiana, just had a vision, and I just drive up to the finished product, and, you can imagine how many years it took to facilitate that whole thing, and this has to be a multi-million-dollar facility for quite a small town in here in Louisiana. But like you said, some Parks and Rec professional had a vision to create something that would be special for these little high school athletes to play on versus you playing in a grass field that, doesn't have bleachers and it's just kind of maybe 50 years old, and now they just upgrade it. And these kids that are coming on today just get to be the beneficiaries of that. And maybe you can speak on this, but Parks and Rec work with all levels of athletes. These aren't going to be future D1 athletes, and this is a small town, but they get to play on a field where they kind of feel like they're almost in a college stadium.
Yeah, they could be a part of something. This utilized. He had not only had basketball, he had baseball, softball, these other facilities that were there, and it was this vision and chip away at knew every single time that he could. So I'm the beneficiary of it. He went back to see and go, yes, those that come up now, they don't realize where this started. It was just concrete.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we're kind of at the halfway mark, I'll go ahead and play a little promo for Aaron's show. For those of you who hadn't paid attention, this is kind of how we discovered each other on the Youth Sports Mastery Show. So we'll play that, and then we'll also play why you should consider Parks and Recreation as a career path, and then we'll come back up and finish with some.
At DPRS Media Co., we don't just create content. We elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics and powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
Every career is a choice, but few careers let you touch lives. Not once in a while, but every single day. Step into a park on a Saturday morning. You'll hear children laughing on the soccer field, families gathering for a picnic, seniors walking the trails, finding health and friendship. And behind every smile, every memory, is a Parks and Rec professional. We don't just mow fields, we grow confidence in young athletes. We don't just build playgrounds, we create safe spaces where childhood thrives. We don't just plan events, we design moments that anchor generations. Think of the coach who teaches patience, the director who champions equity, the staff member who sees potential in a child no one else believed in. Every day, Parks and Rec professionals shape character, preserve beauty, and strengthen community. And the path isn't easy. Budgets are tight, resources stretched thin, but the reward, unmatched. Because what you give comes back in legacy, in healthier communities, in lives forever changed. So why dedicate your life to Parks and Recreation? Because here, your work never ends. It lives on, in laughter echoing across playgrounds, in green spaces preserved for the next century, in the young professionals rising to lead tomorrow. This is not just a career, it's a calling, it's a legacy, it's Parks and Recreation. A message from the Parks and Rec community.
All right. So first, if you haven't reached out to Aaron yet about maybe helping you out with some of your youth sports, you definitely should. He is truly a master and dedicated 40 years of his life to this. So if you're a Parks and Rec department, definitely worth a phone call to see how y'all can work together. Okay, so let's go ahead and fast forward to now you're coaching. You said you're in Oregon, correct?
Yeah. So at that particular junction in time, I was at Oregon University, and a couple of seasons there, and then I make the jump to be a professional head coach on my own, internationally overseas. So I end up catapulting again to be at 3 different levels: a high school coach, an NCAA Division I coach, and then a professional in different countries.
Mm. And then how long were you in that? Well, I imagine are you still coaching today, or?
Yeah, so my most recently it was a couple years. It was prior to that, the 3 seasons living head coach in Japan. And I stayed. I took the option year, my contract, and stay. Mainly I needed it, for my own mental strength, because it's rigorous as 10-month seasons, 60 games, living abroad, no chance to come home. You just and it was just it's intense, as you need a staff, and if you don't have one, then it all falls back on you, and there is no lonely occupation, because you have joy, and then you lose, you suffer, and that's how that goes as a coach. But if you have a staff, at least you have somebody to talk with, great help, and go forth and share responsibilities. I unfortunately did not have that, so that all fell on me.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I'd like to spend the rest of the, if we can, maybe spend the next the rest of the show talking about your book. What inspired you to write it? How long did it take? When did you write it? We'll start there, and then we'll go into the details of it.
Yeah, so I was born in Nuevo Casas Grandes in Chihuahua, Mexico, and I just know that I was adopted, right? So my whole childhood, I was around age of 10. My parents tell me that I was adopted, and I don't know what that means. I have no clue what does adopted mean. I recall my mom explicitly explaining to me what that means, but I go outside, I baseball with a neighbor, and I tell him, hey, I'm adopted, and he's like, I have no idea what that means. No one did. No one was adopted at that time in my neighborhood. So now, as I go to school, I tell teachers, right? And there's just 2 responses. One is like, oh, you are, or it's wonderful. Look what, a different life you have had. So I kind of progress through all that. And then I get a little bit more curious as to, especially when I led the country, that I would receive some letters from people congratulating me or other things. And that's when I got a little curious as to, since I was given up for adoption, why come nobody's looking for me? And then it would disappear. And then, of course, you get curious in my 30s, my 40s, but life circumstances, I'm living internationally in all these different countries. I just don't have the capacity to go search. I turned 50 years old, and I got curious one day and just decided, what is this DNA exam? What are these people? And I take a DNA exam, and I wait for it to come, and I'm flabbergasted by the results. It's just, how does this know? This is where my bloodline is. How does it know? And so that's when I started to get curious. And I take an exam with familytree.com, and that me. I take another one with ancestry.com, and it's even a little bit more detailed. But now I'm in. Now I want to know. So I start to recall, like, uh, where did my mom work? That's all I could think about. My adopted mom. Where did she work? Maybe I think that's who she got the information from to go and retrieve me and get me. And it pops into my head of where she worked. I reach out to that gentleman named Hal Jones, who was part of a Color Classics where my mother had worked, where they make film, where they produce film. And I'm taking a long shot. Like, I don't know if he's alive or not, if he's, and it takes a couple of weeks for him to respond back, but he responds in kind. He's trying to tell me the story. Then he invites me to his house, and I go to Arizona. And I sit down with him, and he describes in detail everything that happened. There are Mormon colonies that are there in this particular region. They're big. This is how it was when somebody would have a child, and that my mom had asked, like, hey, if there was ever a chance for a boy to be born, that she would want to adopt. So he helped facilitate it. And he gave me the, like, go there and you'll have to go for your. So we fast forward another couple of years. I am scouting for the NBA at the Los Angeles Clippers at the time, and I go to Arizona to go scout a player there. And as I sit there, I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to go on the same journey that my parents went driving to go see where I'm from. And I recall my wife saying, wow, you don't know anybody. Where are you going? I never know anybody. I figure it out along the way. I'll make friends. Trust me, people will come out of the wood if they're interested in a family kind of thing. And that's what I did. I got on social media. I reached out to some people that were there. And this one particular gentleman named Victor was a coach there. And he responded in kind, enthusiastically, thinking I'm coached. He knew everyone. People said hello to him. And he was so enthusiastic about, okay, let's not waste a second here. Let's go meet people. Let's go here. And all I really thought was that I was going to know where I was from, possibly the hospital, and a really long shot to know who my birth parents were, because I don't have a name or a photograph, and DNA is proving conclusive. With Ancestry.com, I had reached out to a search angel in Provo, Utah, and that person was fabulous, but was always asking me questions. Who so and so is. I can't say anything, and she's like, well, this is, you have some names to help you, but if you don't know who they are, it doesn't help, right? And I absolutely, I don't have any idea. So she suggests I take a third DNA exam, and so I take 20, and I'm telling you that out conclusive. That there was a first two young ladies that were first cousin niece, which means it's a daughter of a brother or sister of mine. So the curiosity is really strong now. Up until this point, I have visited 2 times already. And on my second visit, I really dug in deep to get a little bit more of an understanding. I went out on radio. I did television broadcasts. I got curious to the university. I spoke just to see if some interject and maybe jog a memory of somebody older, because it could be someone's secret. I don't know. I don't know what the circumstances are going to totally be. But we meet this particular doctor who was the son of the gentleman who probably delivered me at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, it's probably likely that my dad delivered you, but I don't have those records. And this whole time I'm thinking maybe it's because everybody's a little scared about things or how to find records. But nevertheless, he needs to tell me a story of 20 years ago. A gentleman had come there with a small photograph of his particular mother, but he spoke no Spanish, and he was going door to door to try to find this lady. He spent weeks there, like, maybe 3-4 weeks there. And I asked him, did he find her? And yes, he found her.
No
Now,
way.
I'm distraught because now I'm like, I got DNA, I got all this modern technology, but this with this photograph, and way cool story. Well, fast forward after I took that 23andMe and I carefully manuscript an email to these two ladies, telling them, what I'm doing and searching, and then could I have a phone call with them, and basically accepted. And they're hesitant on the phone, and they both say that I should speak to their father. Great. The father takes a couple weeks to call me back. He does, and he says, I believe I'm your brother. And tell me why. I'm not auditioning for a family here. So tell me why do you think that? He proceeds to tell me, Craig, 20 years prior, he spoke no Spanish. He had a small photograph, and he went looking door to door. And I'm thinking, you're the guy that I was told about. That's you? And he's like, yeah, I found our mother, and when after that I asked, do I have any brothers and sisters? He goes, yes, you have a sister over here in this particular part of Mexico, 2 other siblings that are here, and 1 brother born in 1965 that is, I think, in Las Vegas, Tucson, or Phoenix. I don't know, but you do have another brother. And darn if he didn't try to gather up the siblings and go look for me. Now, he may have found me, Craig. If he was lucky, if you by chance would get lucky, he may have found me. But at the age of 20, I was not ready for that. I wouldn't have been, welcoming that search. I was just concentrated playing college basketball. And but boy, when I heard that, the 3rd time I went back, and this time meet everyone, to meet my brothers and sisters, and to also know my mother and father's history. They had since passed on, but they had siblings were still alive, so I could speak to them about that situation that arrived. And I mean, it was like a big thing to go back, because I never had a photograph of my mother, birth parents, or their name. It was essentially a search of the needle in a haystack. I had no clue what I'm going into, and it was just a persistence of just keep looking, keep searching, keep talking to people. And that's how I discovered they were, and found out, hey, I got 5 sisters, who father were, and I felt complete as an individual, trying to at least know where I.
Wow. And so this is what the whole book is about, then, that whole journey?
Yeah. So in order to get that journey, of shooting for the impossible, kind of backtrack to say, you have to understand where I came from, and everything that I've been doing has been essentially a risk and taking chances and searching for things. Because if any of your listeners was to ever meet me, they go, that guy led the country in scoring. I'm not 6'8", jump above the rim. I was just a hardcore dedicated guy to my craft. And in this particular case, like, I was persistent about this. I went to Chihuahua, Mexico 3 consecutive times to keep momentum going, and to see if I could uncover one more thing, and take a chance. And just it was such a such a great journey. It's not for everyone, because not everyone's story turns out great. But for me, I was the beneficiary of that adoption, of that decision that they made to give me up for adoption changed my whole life. I don't know what it would have been had I remained under them, because it was a stress on them financially and poverty at the time. But for me to go, when I came back, Craig, you could see the substantial difference in nutrition, life experiences, other things that I was fortunate to have that they did not. And but boy, you talk about a little bit of they have a little bit of it, because they, as if I was given away from their family, and oh my goodness, I it's quite the opposite. I'm glad that I found them and that I am part of their family, but for me to be given away was to give me a new. Indeed, it did.
Fantastic. And so when did you write the book?
So I ended up I completed it this year. It's been years. I've written it and changed it and altered it, as most authors will ever tell you. And it's one of the most you'll ever do, because you just don't know what's right. Someone else reads it and critiques it, and you just never know, But ultimately, I just saw, like, okay, it's probably not all fantastic. But it tells the story, and that's the point I'm trying to get at. Like, is there something out there that you want to take a look for? Go search for something, take a risk. Then that's exactly what it is. We've all heard, man, oh, that's like a needle in a haystack. I'm never going to find it. You're absolutely right. If you don't ever try for it, can you come from it? You never know, but just be persistent at it, and you'll figure it out. And at the end, all I was searching for was, where am I from? I mean, if at the very least that's possibly the hospital I was delivered at, this is the people, this is the area, I'm happy. But because of my persistence and kept on going, I was so lucky that my two nieces took their test, because that's the only way DNA works. If people take the exam, they both were given that exam as a prank gift for Christmas by their mother-in-law. Their mother-in-law said, yeah, you don't look like your dad, kind of thing. They were fair-skinned. And as a prank gift, they were given that. They took the test. And had they not taken the exam, I mean, I'd still be not knowing where I was from. Perhaps, it was that randomness that allowed, and that's the beauty of DNA. It only works if people take the exam. Otherwise, you're just out there searching for forever, but it was a joy to do that.
Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful story. And so where can they find your book? Is it on Amazon or?
Yeah, Amazon.com. That's the biggest marketplace for all books possible. So all you have to do is look up either my name or Shooting for the Impossible, and have an enjoyable read of just a journey of discovery. I had always heard about people who went and looking and found, and I found that like a miracle and fascinating. Here I am. I'm living proof to do that. And you got to have some luck along.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. So what message do you have for, maybe put yourself in the shoes of a Parks and Rec director that is trying to create a community? They've been handed the torch. Maybe they want to accomplish something. What are some of the messages you would have for somebody trying to build a community, make a difference in their community?
So I suppose it can be an incredible spectrum of all of your Parks and Recs people. They come from different demographics, geographical locations. What I can base it on is the gentleman I saw when I was a child. it was nothing. It was just concrete slab and some baskets, right? And uh, what I saw was the vision the gentleman had was futuristic. It was down the line, and he kept going like one day that's what it's going to be like, and that's what drove him. The circumstances that happened all the time of lack of funding, boy, it happened a lot in Tucson, Arizona for him. And he's next to train tracks. I mean, you're talking about, the problem there. What he did to get the trains to move away from that facility must have been monumental. He was going to city council meetings constantly to divert that route. Once that changed, okay, that park became more safe. Up until that point, Craig, everybody had to relocate and move cars because here comes the train, and but even though things were not so great, he also involved his community. They had a gigantic wall that was empty, and instead of it being tagged, so to speak, by those that were just around this in the neighborhood, as most of the Parks and Recs guys, I'm sure, can say, he instilled into them that this is work. I need artwork on this, and they played a part of it. To this day, it's there as a protected monument, so to speak. No one messes with that, and you could see when they were doing it, they put the date like 1979. That's vision too, to involve the community and to keep something preserved and allow them to understand that this park is also yours. Let's protect it. And while I have this vision down the future, let me continue to do all that. But meanwhile, I need your help and support in protecting it as well, and understand that this is a safe environment. It's open to everybody. And even if a little kid on that day, I'll find a way for that little kid to have his own particular time. And fantastic. I think that's what everybody should do.
Yeah. Okay. So now, one of the last things we do at the end of every show, we have a tradition where one of our previous guests, this is from Chelsea from, it's Snohomish County, Washington. That's an Indian name. So this is a girl from Washington. She's a park ranger, has a beautiful story. And if you haven't looked into Snohomish County, it's gorgeous. But the question she left for you, John, is if you could leave, and then you'll also have to leave a question for my next guest, so you can be thinking about that. But this is the question she left for you, not knowing who you were. If you could leave some words of wisdom for a fellow professional, what would that be and why?
I think it would go down to exactly what I had said early in the conversation about being curious about meeting people. Go out of your way to be curious and meet as you possibly can. Understand and ask questions like, what was their purpose in life? How did they remain persistent through all the obstacles that they had? And how do they show and demonstrate their passion daily? I think if you can do that, you'll gain your own internal inspiration from that, and that'll help you along the journey. If nothing else, it changes your life perspective to meet somebody and just someone new. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think curiosity will serve everyone well. It reminds me of that old Stanford Steve Jobs speech, graduation speech, where he said, "Stay curious, stay hungry," kind of thing.
Amazing to do something like that. I mean, even today, I would challenge all your listeners: meet someone new. Go out of your way today to meet somebody new. Watch what an interesting conversation you possibly have as you come home and talk to your spouse or significant other or children about who you met today.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so what question would you like to leave for my next guest?
I guess it would probably leave vein, how many people have you met this week that it may have changed your life? And I think that may stump your listeners into going, wow, I'm not sure, but they'll figure out that there is someone that they met during their week that was different, unique, maybe someone that they had to help. Along that journey, and I think that would probably be my question to them. Who have you met along this past week?
Yeah, love it.
That you were curious meeting, that change, yeah, I know you can change someone's life, especially in the Parks and Rec world. My goodness, amount of people that come to them.
Oh, I know. It's a never
But
ending stream of people that come into their lives and into their park systems that's kind of under their care. They really are a great industry to work with.
yeah,
But
gosh,
that's it.
amazing.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing your story, and I appreciate you coming on Aaron's show. I'm so glad that I met Aaron. He's introduced me to some amazing people
Yeah,
on the athletic sides of Parks and Recreation, and thank you for writing that book. That's going to be a great one. So if someone would like to get a copy, I guess they can go to Amazon and just what they type in "Shooting for the Impossible," correct?
that's correct. That's all you got to do on Amazon.com, and it'll pop up for you anywhere in the world.
Now, do you do any other type of service? Or are you just coaching, or do you do any, like speaking engagements or anything
Yeah,
like that?
I speak all to everywhere from from high school to you name it, a Rotary Club to an international basketball camp. I speak everywhere, because most of the time it's based upon the world experience that I have. That I'm willing to share. It's not all success. I also talk about the failure because it's I'm an open book. It's not all wins. There's no way everybody has won. You take a lot of losses in life, and my journey has never been one in which I'm living in one specific spot. I've been to 9 countries. I've seen different what it's like to take the risk. Someone will talk to me yesterday about moving. Boy, okay, that's great to move, but I'm talking about moving out of the country. That's a different world experience for you. It's not for everybody,
Right.
and it's not vacation either, So,
Yeah.
but boy, do you have hands-on experience of what it's like and appreciation for different cultures and languages? You bet. You strengthened the position of my sons. What I wanted to give them in life was not what they could learn in a book, what they could learn from others that they met in life that'll help them their own decisions as to how do people treat them. Don't come to conclusions on what maybe media says about somebody in another country.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, definitely travel. If you can travel abroad, if you ever have that opportunity, I think you'll won't regret it for sure.
No, you will never regret that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on the show today and sharing your story with us.
of
And
course. If
hopefully
there's
we can have
anything I could ever help you with, you let me know. It's been a joy and a pleasure to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll reach out to you for some speaking engagements because I know we're attending a lot of state uh, conventions. What part of the country are you residing in now, or where are you located?
So I'm in Orange County, California, and
Okay.
this I've been to every state in the union. Absolutely love every place that's here. Would be a joy and an honor, to benefit however I possibly could.
Yeah.
Because what I'll bring to the table, is the energy and enthusiasm, but also the real world applications of I found it has been, instrumental or exactly like I told you before, even my own failures in life, and
Yeah.
everybody has had them.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you for coming on the show today, John. Appreciate you.
Sure. Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye now.
All right. So that was another great episode with John. close friend and colleague of Aaron Locke's. He is the host for our weekly show on youth sports called Youth Sports Mastery. That's every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Got a lot of great shows planned for the rest of this week, and we're also gearing up to attend the Georgia State Convention and the Kentucky State Convention first 2 weeks of next month. So we got a little bit of a lull here where we get to create content from home, and then we're back on the road to kind of duplicate what we did at NRPA. And we've got a lot of great content coming out of that. I think we were able to interview 30 to 40. I haven't even counted them all, but it was a nonstop marathon of interviews with NRPA. Appreciate all the guys that helped out with that. Thank you, Sherry, for helping to run backstage and set everything up. And we may be able to run. We're threatening to be able to run actually 2 simultaneous podcasts live from both of those conventions. And we've got a lot of other guests that are helping us, guest hosts that are helping me. So it won't be me on stage. Dave Ramirez with Outdoor Link, who's got quite the stage presence, and Victoria, another girl out of Georgia. And then Tasha will be helping me man the stage for Kentucky. So really looking forward to that. But appreciate everybody attending today. Apologize for breaking my back yesterday, and I had to kind of cancel my show. We'll get those people back and get them on the show. But this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. This is our leadership series, which is a daily show, well, Monday through Thursday show, so 4 days a week, where we try to bring in some of the best leaders in parks and recreation to kind of capture the wisdom that they've had and gained throughout their entire career and their life, and share that with the world of parks and recreation across America. Really appreciate all the sponsors that are coming online to really help us co-create and to create this media company for the industry. And I really couldn't do it without them and their financial contribution. And then, of course, the products and services that they've been bringing to the Parks and Rec industry. All the Parks and Rec professionals will tell you that they could not do what they do without the vendors bringing in their products and services. And then, of course, the vendors are really supporting these state events and these national events, and they couldn't even put those shows on if it weren't for them financially contributing to those annual events that you have in every state in America. So shout out to all of them. All right, so we will be here again tomorrow, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern, for another leadership series. But tomorrow we also have our Youth Sports Mastery show with Aaron Locke's every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So 2 shows tomorrow. We'll see y'all here again then. Love you guys. Thank you for all the love and support. See y'all later. Thanks. Bye.
At DPRS Media Co., we believe Parks and Recreation isn't just a service, it's the heartbeat of our communities. We exist to honor the people, the vendors, and the leaders shaping the future of Parks and Rec. Our mission is simple: to tell their stories, highlight their careers, and celebrate their essential work. Our vision is bold: to be the trusted hub where leaders, vendors, and communities unite, inspiring innovation, sharing wisdom, and building a stronger, healthier nation. Through over 220 live shows and 6 weekly series, the Leadership Series, Facility Maintenance, Young Professionals Network, Youth Sports Mastery, The Rec Room, and Growing Leaders, plus our industry-leading newsletter, the weekly Parks and Rec Post, we're building a media platform made for the Parks and Rec community. And now, we're inviting strategic partners to co-create this story with us. As a partner, you'll gain 12 hours of annual live exposure with custom shows highlighting your expertise, polished 60-second promos refined for maximum impact, year-round visibility with dozens of replays across our media network, premium features in our newsletter, and amplified social media reach across LinkedIn, X, and Facebook. This is your chance to educate, inspire, and lead while connecting directly with the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. This is DPRS Media Co. Let's build the future of Parks and Rec together.